in Morgan, and I'm having trouble sleeping, and something that was on my mind is I recently stumbled upon a channel called Blair White, and she was sharing some videos about like stuff happening in the schools lately from like TikTok posts or whatever. And one of the things that she shared, and this brings back a lot of bad memories for me, and so it's something that's incredibly difficult to talk about. Um, that she shared a video of a kid being locked in a closet. And I know that's like because it was, I think because the kid wasn't wearing a mask or something, like that's something that I guess is like shocking or new to a lot of people. Like they hadn't, like I guess the only reason that it got attention is probably because of like that's a partisan hot topic issue nowadays. Um, but something that very few people seem to be aware of is that this has been a reality for disabled children, for disabled students, for how old am I now? At least since I was like I know at least since I was in third grade. At least since I was 8. I know this has been going on, at least it was very much so happening in the 2000s. This has been going on for a long time. And I think it's important to talk about this, even though it's very difficult for me to talk about this, because oftentimes those of us who are disabled and differently abled, if you may or may not know, I am on the autism spectrum, and I'm someone who is verbal, but there are a lot of people on the spectrum who are nonverbal and who face even greater challenges than I do communicating what is going on in their lives. And so oftentimes parents and caregivers aren't aware about seclusion rooms, and they also may not be informed about, for instance, if their kid's IEP isn't being followed. Like the kid might not be able to communicate that or communicate ways that things are going wrong or their rights aren't being respected or they're being abused in the schools. But yeah, I think it's like people need to be aware that teachers have been locking children in closets and denying them access to the bathroom, and denying them access to water and stuff for a very, very long time. This is a real issue. It is especially like common among disabled kids who can't advocate, and it oftentimes goes unnoticed, because oftentimes like we may not communicate that issue. We might not communicate what's going on. I personally, I felt ashamed, like I was like a villain, like I was, what's the word? Like I felt like I was everything that was wrong with the world. And that's something that's very, very difficult to talk about. And I know now that no child should ever have to feel like that. There is a reason that the Satanic Temple, like in their Save the Children project or whatever it's called, like this is something that has always been like shocking to me, is that the literal frickin' Satanists are the only people like talking about how seclusion rooms are like it's solitary confinement and denying children access to bathrooms. That's torture. That is actually that is torture. They come out and call that torture. And it's weird to me that it's like, okay, the only people talking about this are like Satanists. Those are the last people that I would think of as being the people advocating for like children's rights. Yeah, seclusion rooms are a very real issue, and they occur in the American public school system, and this has been an issue long before COVID. I'm glad that people are more aware that this is happening because of COVID. But like y'all need to be paying attention to people need to realize that oftentimes disabled people and disabled children and disabled students aren't always able to communicate when something is wrong, and to be aware that there is abuse going on in the American public school system. So yeah, this is not a very happy topic. But I feel like this is something that there needs to be awareness of. And um there were numerous instances of me being locked in small rooms with no teacher guarding the door. So if there was a fire, if God forbid there had been a fire, I could have died. Um, this is a major, like, this is in addition to being a situation of we know that solitary confinement can have long-term psychological issue, long-term psychological um, issues that can sometimes there's that can be a problem. And I will try and cite some sources down below for further reading. But in addition to the psychological impacts, there's also the very real issue of when this stuff like this happens. Like, if there's a fire or some other emergency that requires evacuating the building, then I would have, and many other children, many other little vulnerable disabled children may very well, how many of us, we could die, we could have died. Like, how many lives are educators going to risk because they think it's okay to abuse disabled kids? So yeah, I think people need to be aware that seclusion rooms are a form of abuse, and that many children to this day are being victimized by them. And I hope that you become more educated and aware of this topic, and I hope that you speak out against these atrocities.